Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. A fellow student in this class, Vishnu, has asked a brilliant question after we all went out. And he said, how do you devote? How do you bring devotion into your life? And this got me thinking that, you see, devotion, there are many forms of devotion. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because without devotion, the knowledge becomes dry and non-applicable to real life. So then the question of devotion is one of, in what ways could this knowledge percolate throughout my behavior, my words, and my actions? That's called devotion. So he asked this question, I thought about it, and I told him the answer that, how I've been doing it. And you see, we all start with a form, and that's why we have some, god or goddess in our room, or maybe someone that matters to you, Saraswati or Durga or Shiva or whoever it is, maybe Jesus or anyone that represents that wise person to you. So this is a form of devotion because they represent, that Son of God, that Atman. And by the way, in Christianity, when you say Son of God, who is that Son? It's Atman. It's the Self. So, and this is okay because the mind has the need to grasp onto things, and that's all it has in life. It's just forms. However, this devotion then takes a little, like a step upwards, and it becomes more involved. Now you really go to, maybe Kirtanam, or go to these places of powerful, you get energized with a certain Ramayana teaching or Mahabharata. Usually Ramayana is also a very good way to invoke that devotion. Bhagavatam, Puranas. These are all texts, at least in the Vedic times, or in India, that are used for devotion. Now, in the West world, we have devotion, but it's very quiet. It's very hard to see. You can certainly see devotion in your love for your child. That's a form of devotion, or a love for quality. We like to refine things, and we like to optimize things. That's a certain devotion for Ishvara in the form of perfection. Or we have research, so doctors and scientists and researchers that put so much time dedicating their lives to cancer research, and they come up with these solutions that we just use and we say, cure me, and yet there's a mind that took ages and nobody even approved of that mind. Nobody even knows about that mind. But to that mind, it wasn't a waste of time. It didn't see it that way. For that, it was a matter of devotion. So whether you call it devotion or scientific research, it's only devotion, because all there is here is Ishvara. So the first thing that we have to understand about devotion is it doesn't have any particular way how it looks like. If there is only Ishvara here, you are by definition always devoting to Ishvara. So the first step is to start to interpret devotion as such, that I am always in devotion. I am always giving back. You see, in the Gita we say this whole world is yajna. Yajna is contribution. You're always contributing back to the society, whether you know it or not. You're contributing your time, your resources, your investments, your friendship, your love, your care, your nurturing. You're, in that sense, always devoting to someone. And that someone is none other than Ishvara in that form. So this means the partner now is no longer just a person in my life, but they are a perfect opportunity to look at them as Ishvara in the form of my partner, and that becomes your devotion. And then he asked me, what does this look like? How do you do that? And I said to him, You see, at the beginning, it's very hard because remember that example of my dad when I was speaking to him, and it took me quite a bit of effort to bring this teaching in reference to my father. It's easy to do it with trees and resources, but someone that you just want to talk and, serious matters, you're just so in that moment that the teaching doesn't sometimes even have a chance to percolate. And when I took that moment just to see the presence of intelligence throughout his body, throughout his thoughts, throughout his mind, that's all I did, 1 second. And I walked away, and that changed my relationship to my father. He was no longer just a father. He is in Ishvara in the form of this man that I happen to be connected with, I as the body-mind. And so initially it's hard, but you might find something to make it easier for yourself. Like, for example, at the beginning, I was bringing this teaching, like instead of seeing the thunder or the quietness as just quietness or the cloudiness as just cloudiness, I said, this is Ishvara's tamaguna, dark, gloomy. If I see a person, then I say, this is Ishvara's tamaguna, laziness, procrastinating, making mistakes. If I see someone clear, then I say, this is Ishvara's sattvaguna, clarity, brightness, discernment. If I see someone that's forward moving, energized, ambitious, I say, this is Ishvara's Rajaguna. And something very interesting happened. I realized through time, what you're supposed to do with this Vedanta is not use it as a theoretical knowledge, but you turning your mind into a Vedanta perceiving instrument. That means you start to perceive the world through the eyes of Vedanta. Because if we don't, what's going to happen when I see the weather? Oh, gloomy. You see what happened? I superimpose a label onto the weather. But now I use this knowledge and I start to think in the light of the knowledge. So no more does judgment occur, but rather I'm using the Vedic teachings and using them to reinterpret reality. This is why they say the wise person is an embodiment of the Veda. Why? Because they are using the Veda as a model of how to perceive the universe. Or for instance, when someone's showing something unfair or lazy or foolish, some foolish behavior or something that's incorrect, then instead of letting my mind go on to labeling them, what does my mind do? This is Ishvara's Avarana Shakti in full operation. And when I see clear weather, sunny, instead of going, let's go on the beach, I go, this is Ishvara's Sattva Guna. So what's happening here is slowly, how you used to think is being replaced by Vedantic thoughts. Because see, Vedanta is the knowledge of reality. And the only instrument that you have is the mind. So the only instrument that can really recognize the knowledge keeping true with what is that mind. And Vedantic principles are keeping true with what is. So if you start to incorporate and reinterpret the world through these teachings that we have discussed, then by definition, you're starting to live the Veda. You're starting to live this knowledge as if it's you yourself become the Veda. You become the scriptures. Does that happen overnight? Absolutely not. Is it hard work? Initially, yes. Because we have not thought like this before. So this progress of removing my old thinking, you're now beginning to reanalyze and reinterpret the world through the eyes of Vedanta. And doing this little by little, your world, your reality, your sense of devotion completely starts to take a total 180 turn. And then you're saying, this is lovely. It's no longer just I exist, but this is one reality in whom we are all participants of, And we're all going together through this journey, and we're all just expressions of this one intelligence, and you are recognizing that. And you are always in touch with that. Your mind is always in touch with that. And the very mind that's in touch with that also recognizes itself as that very intelligence. And you say, things are so much better now. Now that I've chosen to take this path of reinterpreting the presence of things through the eyes of wisdom. Now that one unity of intelligence I see through all forms. Otherwise, I tell you, equanimity without seeing or recognizing unity is not possible. It's either going to be superficial or short-lasting. As long as my eye is on and my mind is on constant compartmentalizing forms, putting them into categories, form 1, form 2, form 3, Indians versus the Westerners, this versus that, it will never come to a true resolution. Therefore, one needs to start to take the approach of recognizing sameness in all things. And since you cannot recognize consciousness because it's not an object, your only option is God, in a form of that which makes all forms what they are, that which governs the past, the present, and the future, that which is constantly manifesting and reshuffling into this moment right now. There's only God. You're swimming in God right now. Like a fish. And the water here is not different from the fish. Both the water and the fish is God. And so this becomes your refuge. And you're never alone now. You're never lonely. You're never isolated. You're never seeing the world as an unfair place. You're seeing that there's nothing outside Ishvara here. Everything is within this network. Everything has a perfect place and position and timing. There's no one outside Ishvara. And you, whatever your definition of you now is, it doesn't really matter. You know why? Because wherever there is mithya, that's exactly where satyam is. So even the definition of you, self, not self, becomes irrelevant. Being the witness or non-witness becomes irrelevant. Therefore, you are param, you are beyond all pairs of opposites because there's only God here. And you will never be outside Him. And you and Him enjoy the same truth right now. There's nowhere for you to go. There's nowhere for you to get punished or someplace. That's not possible anymore. Because when you hear this knowledge, when you recognize your unity, you can't go anywhere because you're that which is all pervasive. As long as I see myself as one single form, I can certainly go. But when I break that spell, that avarana shakti that was causing me to see this projection as the reality, once that gets severed, no more traveling is possible because you have shifted your identity to that which is everywhere, at all time, at all places. Now this is going to be talked about. What is it that the wise person recognizes and how do they live that this vision has now taken place? And we're entering a new topic, the Jivan Mukta, the fruits of knowledge of oneness. 83. Man of steady wisdom. Brahma Atmanoho Shodhitayoho Eka Bhava Avagahini Nirvikalpa Cha Chit Matra Vrittihi Prajna Iti Katyate Sustita Sa Bhavet Yasya Jivan Muktaha Sa Uchyate. The Akhandakara Vritti, whose object is oneness between the Jiva and Ishvara, which is in the form of consciousness, free from subject-object duality, is called prajna. So this is a special thought called prajna. We will talk about this thought now. He for whom this knowledge is firm, he or she, is called Jivan Mukta, liberated while living. In this verse, it talks about a thought that Shankara uses called prajna. Or if you're in a different dialect, you will say prajna. And this thought destroys self-ignorance, that final block of ignorance that couldn't allow my mind to own up to my true nature. So this thought does it. Final thought before moksha. Okay. Another name for it, a more common name, is Akhandakara Vritti or Brahmakara Vritti. So we will stick with the word Akhandakara Vritti because it's more common. So what is this vritti? Any vritti, vritti just means mode of the mind. Suppose you're in a desert and in the distance you see some water and you think it's water, okay? And somebody next to you says, no, just look closer, Can you see? And you say, oh, it's a mirage, okay? What happened in that moment? Does that thought, oh, it's a mirage, does that continue? Or it's just a one-off? It's a one-off. Once you recognize the true nature of that, that's it. The vritti has served its purpose. So any vritti, the purpose of a vritti is to show something, and when it shows something, it's no longer needed. That's the nature of a vritti. Now this vritti, like any other vritti, comes and goes. It shows something and it goes away. But the only difference with Akhandakara vritti is instead of showing an object known to the subject, it shows the very nature of the subject. Okay? So let's analyze this further and I'll explain what this means. See, in an ordinary knowledge, how does knowledge of anything take place? So this is an analysis. How does something in your mind occur? In a normal mode, two processes take place. The first is called vritti vyapti and phala vyapti. So suppose you see this container. See, there's no container right now. And now I show you a container and you're looking at this container. Two processes have taken place so quickly, you didn't catch them. The first thing that occurred is vritti vyapti. Vritti means thought. A thought, a mode of a mind has resulted in your mind. A mode has resulted in your mind. So your mind has now taken this exact shape. That's why you see it. That's why now you say, I see it. So number one, if you slow down, what's now happening? The mind is now generating like pixel by pixel. Okay? And your mind is like Play-Doh, exactly like this. That's process number one. The second process is what's called phala vyapti. Phala vyapti is then you say, now that the mind is fully made into this form, now the subject, we call that the reflected consciousness, the subject or the ahamkara, being the subject, in the presence of the subject, this object appears. So now it says this, the subject, in the presence of the subject, this is a container. So simplifying this a little bit further, two processes take place. Number one, the mind recreates itself into a thought. The second, once that happens, then you say, this is a container. Okay? And it happens very slowly. Now, what does that imply when you say, this is a container? I am the subject and this is other than me. Subject, object. So any thought that takes place about anyone or anything or any topic, including the universe, you say, now I understand. I, the subject, recognize that knowledge about physics, about space, about time, whatever it is. So there's always a two-part involvement there. Vritti Vyapti and Palavyapti. Palavyapti means this is an object. This is an object in my mind. And I am the subject. That's a normal mode of knowledge. What happened now? The container got objectified by your mind. For the fact that the container is a known must imply there is a knower. The fact that the container is an object implies there is a subject. The fact that the container is witnessed must imply there is a witness. The fact that the container is perceived must imply there is a perceiver. The fact that the container is experienced must imply that there is an experiencer. Subject, object, subject, object. No matter how you look at it, there's two things there. That's a normal form of knowledge. Now, what about self-knowledge? Because self-knowledge is also a vritti, but it has a special name here, akhanda. There is no division. There's no division between the subject and the object. So when the thought, that final thought arises, when you've been hearing enough Vedanta, on and on and on, you see, even a thought that you are that's a thought, that's a vritti. That's no different than this in your mind. So what happens when you hear, I am that very awareness that the scriptures talk about? I am not away from that very awareness that the scriptures talk about. That's a thought. So when you hear a thought from the scriptures, or a statement from the scriptures, what happens is vritti vyapti. Your mind has taken the form of I am that. But the only difference is there's no palavyapti. You cannot now say, this I am. You can't say that. Because that thought points to the very presence, to the very reality that is both the subject and the object. So there's no sense of I am one reality and this object is another reality. So let me simplify this a little bit further. What happens during moksha? That's question number one. What happens during an ordinary thought? That's question number two. During an ordinary thought, your mind creates an image. During moksha, your mind does not create an image. Because awareness is not an object. Rather, moksha is the recognition that the very reality, I am that right now. It's not saying you are that reality over there. It's saying the very presence, the very awareness which makes all things up, that makes both the perceiver and the perceived is you. How to understand this a little bit better? Simple. When you dream, there's one being that populates that entire dream. The subject and the object, right? The subject and the object have no reality apart from the dreamer. It's one being. So now suppose the subject in that dream is enlightened. What do they recognize? My truth, the mountain's truth, your truth, everyone's substance, that which makes up all things, is me alone. Now, when it says the word me, is it referring to the subject alone? No, it's referring to that which inheres and is intrinsic to all things in the dream. The mountain and the subject, the object and the subject. Therefore, what is Akhandakara vritti? It's the recognition that both the subject and the object are just one same reality. There's no difference between them. They're just different upadis. That's it. So, this way, the Jivan Mukta does not create an image of awareness or consciousness because the mind thinks like this. Whenever it understands something, it creates an image. Moksha is not an image in the mind. It's another thing that came in time. It wasn't there a second ago and now it is. So this way, no turning images of something that I'm this big, vast being. You know, I'm this big, and you are all inside me. And I tell you, the mind is so genius at doing this that it almost finds just another way to imagine how, and you can tell this in behavior. It's just a very strange behavior. You know, like I'm enlightened and I'm now looking through you, and I'm like, you know, really weird. And I'm like, you know, using some, you know, mental gymnastics, you know, how I see zeros and ones flowing through you, how there's just consciousness over, and you feel really uncomfortable. That's not moksha, it's childishness. Okay? So nothing is left in the process of moksha. You just recognize that even that imagination is also an upadi, mithya. And wherever there's an upadi, that's exactly where satyam is. So why imagine? Why not just be with the world? If my imagination is upadi and this ordinary world is an upadi, why do I have to run off into imagination? Why not just accept the world and recognize the world itself is an upadi, and the truth of that upadi is my very nature right now? That's why we say you first have to get rid of that propensity, that need for imagining things. We call it pratibhasika, my own subjectivity, what children love to do. They try to go into a little bubble, and they stay there in that bubble. And then the parent has to pull them out of that bubble. Come back, my dear. Come back to the world. You know, because, you know, they're saying, I'm going to kill my mother. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill my mother. And you see this in the child. They're actually saying it. And you can see they're literally in a world of their own. So you have to bring them out of that world into this world. And this world, you recognize the truth through this world alone. This is all you have. The world is where you recognize the truth. Because the truth of the world is, the world is mithya, but wherever there's mithya, it's never away from satyam. Therefore, you start through this understanding that the very reality is in this world, as this world. Not just in, but as this world. A hand up, you had?
See that the wish for moksha, the wish for this to happen, it starts to make all types of stories. It hardly can stay in one place. You see what I mean? You start to search. The mind starts to search for it. Where is it? Why is it? It's very hard not to do that.
It's very hard. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know it's like a cat chasing its own tail, because you know that.
Yeah, it's very, very hard, and person has to get themselves out of that, because nobody, even the guru, doesn't know what's going on in your own mind. But if there's one thing that I do remember, it's crazy amount of stories and imaginations that are happening.
And you know it's not that, because you can feel like you're an amoeba, you're inside of this bubble, trying to move out of the bubble.
Exactly.
So whatever I do in the movement, I'm still in the bubble.
Yes, exactly. You're just revolving around the bubble. So you have to understand that there is no such thing as, first of all, pop the bubbles. Second is there's nowhere to go out. There's nowhere to escape. There's no better place for you than right here and right now. That is an understanding of wisdom. Think about that. If I'm looking for a better place, I am in still imagination mode. That means I'm putting labels here on this world, and I'm thinking that I will be label free. This is why we like to travel. That's why people are so much happier when they come out of their labeling environment, and now I've got no labels in a different country, and I'm so happy. The moment we go back, we start to relabel. I mean, the labels are already established back in our home, and so it's not a big deal anymore. So I have to see all things around me, that there is no better place. There is no better place. There is no hierarchy. All that is here is one. One intelligence reshuffling. The same intelligence that's reshuffling these atoms Is the same intelligence reshuffling atoms in heaven. Never mind even intelligence, just atoms. It's just atoms all over the place, rearranging themselves. 5 elements rearranging themselves. Therefore, the work is this. Can I find God in my environment, in my normal, everyday home environment? That's the ultimate question and the biggest work. Where does all this work happen? Right in your home, the best place. And if you can do that, in that place where you've learned to attach so many labels, everything else will be so much easier. I've got work to do as much as you do. No one's free from this. We all got work to do. Okay, so it just wants to show, if this was confusing, this Akhandakara Vritti, because people talk about this and they get all fascinated into it and go, tell me about Akhanda and Kara Vritti. Simplify, it just means your mind doesn't create an image of awareness. Done.
And why is it the final thought before moksha? Or is it like the blocking thought? Is that, do you start by saying that?
It just means it's a thought that doesn't leave a mental image. That's why it's called Akhanda. It's without division. It doesn't create subject-object. That's it.
And Prajna is this another word for Akhanda?
Sorry?
Prajna is the another word for...
Prajna, yeah. Yeah, it's the only text where we use Prajna, Shankara, but I'm using the common Vedantic Akhanda or Brahmakara. Okay?
Sorry, Andre, so I think like
Vishnu
was saying that the word final makes it feel like it's going to be the last thought, but it's actually continuous, isn't it?
Okay, okay. Fair enough, yeah.
Is that what I'm just asking?
Sure, but no, it's fair, you could assume that. When I said final, it's that thought after which there's no more doubts. In that sense, it's final. Because all this time you've been entertaining nothing but thoughts. That I am this, I am the nature of consciousness. And these are all thoughts. But at some point, enough of those false notions have been, pushed aside, have been just disintegrated, that when you listen to something, or a teacher, or whatever, a video recording or something, then you just get it. It's that getting. Okay. Now I get it. It's what I've always been in touch with. I already enjoy it right now. It's not away from me. So that moment, that's Akhandakara Vritti. Yeah. So now the scriptures give it a special name. Akhanda is without division, because after that moment go, I am an elephant. In other words, you don't create some object that you are, some special thing out there, but that very thing I am right now. Yeah. Now, what is an opposite? Let's define this a little bit more. What is an opposite of Akhandakara Vritti? It will be like this. You are beautiful. Oh, thank you. I am now beautiful. Thank you for adding something onto me. That's a normal thought. It adds something onto the subject. You are love. Oh, I am love. I am love. So still, I and love have now, merged. We're not talking about addition. We're talking about subtraction. So Akhandakara Vritti is subtracting thought. It removes that last idea that was making me not convinced. Remember, we're all salesmen. The teacher is a salesman. The scriptures are salesmen. That was making me say, I'm not buying this idea that I am one. So Akhandakara Vritti is that final salesman. And you go, okay, I accept. I now see your point of view. I see it now. And once I see your point of view, never again do you have any issues or have to hear the teaching again, because you saw it once and it did its job. Okay? So it's very simple. Akhandakara Vritti equals a thought that doesn't leave a mental image. That's it. Having removed the last notion that was denying me from my true nature, 2 obstacles remain. The first obstacle is intellectual obstacles, because there are still nuances. There's still many nuances to work through. And those nuances will still make you doubt whether you got it or not. Like, did I get it? I'm not sure. I need some confirmation. Initially, the person might need confirmation. It's a common thing, actually. They want to ask a teacher and they just need that authoritative source to confirm. This is because there are still remnants of intellectual notions that are causing me to doubt. And those doubts have to be removed through the process of mananam. Mananam, having now listened, shravanam, now you continue to remove those residual intellectual ideas that are causing you to not fully accept yourself or doubt yourself as this very truth. You see, we often have this, of course, Akhandakara Vritti, from that moment on, right, things are clear. Like, I am awareness, full stop. It's like that. It's that clear. However, very soon after the honeymoon goes away, then the old ideas come in and they start to, do their funny business, try to confuse you, and you have to keep on removing that through additional listening and doubt removal. That's the first obstacle. The second obstacle, even harder, which we spoke about earlier, is emotional obstacles. This is why even after removing doubts, the person still doesn't feel it. Yes, it is an experience. We now know it's just a kosha. But here's the thing. Do not discard experience entirely. Because we often say in Vedanta, especially in Dainanda tradition, that moksha is not an experience. And that's true. It's not something that's added onto you. However, having been to Chinmaya school, I can also testify that you can also say that, but you have to be very careful when you say what follows is an experience. But what do I mean by that? Not as a new thing, but just a relief that I'm no longer this small individual. So you can say in that sense, it is an experience of relief. The experience doesn't leave you ever. So you can call it an experience of contentment because you have resolved a problem that was bugging you for a long time. So to remove these emotional obstacles, I have to undergo 10 plus years, more, lifetime, forget about it, lifetime of nididhyasanam. Now, as you remove those obstacles, it would seem like your knowledge is getting clearer, but it's not. Because once Akhandakara Vritti takes place, it will never be more or less. You know you're that which is limitless. You cannot improve that which is limitless. It will always be limitless. So it's not like, I've got moksha 1% and I need to attain 99% moksha. Moksha is 100% final. There's no better moksha. No one has ever attained higher moksha than somebody else. It is all equal. Because you have now recognized that which is infinite. And if it's infinite, how do you compare infinite and infinite? Can you compare that? No. Once I recognize infinity, and once you recognize infinity, it's infinity. As the intellectual and emotional notions start to get cleared up, to your mind, it would seem like you are more in touch with God, more in touch with this reality, more in touch with clarity. But that is all because you're reducing those extra tama gunish attributes in the mind, which seem to you like things are becoming more clear. But in actuality, you're already free. So even if you don't undergo mananam and nididhyasanam, still, there's no rebirth. But because you have done so much work for all this time and a sincere human being naturally wants to continue growing, you're not going to stop. Okay? So it's not like moksha now puts you at ease and now you go chill out on a hammock and there's no more work to do. It's not like that. And we can demonstrate this. The scriptures demonstrates this gradation of clarity in reference to the mind, not in reference to who you are. They have a gradation to this. And this will answer why you can have wise people of different predispositions. Brahmavid is the one for whom Akhandakara Vritti has taken place. That means the reality of the truth is fully known. When that occurs, you still have pressures, emotional pressures, intellectual pressures, conditional pressures, cultural pressures. So we'll say here knowledge, and on this side we'll put pressures, habits. What kind? Intellectual and emotional. But knowledge is there. The way to reduce this pressure is you take on karma yoga. So we have many jnanis who are still karma yogis. That means still relinquishing this need that I always have to get it my way, and that I'm always devoting to Ishvara. I'm seeing the presence of Ishvara in all things. This becomes your karma yoga practice. So solution, karma yoga. The next stage is Brahmavid Varaha. Varaha. Here also knowledge is taking place, but because you have worked on on the body-mind complex, it's a lot less. So less. And then we have Varyaha. At this point, your mind is a lot more introverted, and sometimes that individual at this level, you have to remind them to eat and to take care of their body. Because they're so, right, in a natural meditative, introspective state. Their mind, I'm not talking about the self, this is at the level of the mind. So, remind to eat, take care of body. I mean, they have to remind themselves, of course. But they have a lot less concern about body looks and, socializing and all this, because they're just in that state. Their mind is in a state of meditation. And then you got Varishta. Now you got Varishtaha. Your mind is in a state of, mostly they spend time in meditation. Disinterested in basically the world. Very introverted. 4 levels. 1 to 4. Now anything underneath the red is what's called a Brahmanishta. Brahmanishta is one whose the knowledge has taken place, but their mind is a lot more calmer, a lot more refined, a lot more worked upon. The point of this chart is to show you most individuals, when the knowledge takes place, where are they? Brahmavid. This is why you can meet wise people, but the personality is not that refined. They're not that, may not be that pleasant sometimes. They still got their own personal pressures, personal stuff, personal stories, personal things, still hurtful. Say, this is a wise person? Yes, it's a wise person. Because the knowledge has taken place. Now, most teachers are at this level, Varaha, where all of that stuff, due to teaching, due to the work, you have a lot less of that stuff. So you're no longer so much into that mode of personal pressures, and you have to clear your stuff, yourself up. Otherwise, it's very hard to teach. These 2 levels, perhaps you will find some, teacher or 2 there, but here, no.
Otherwise, you wouldn't teach.
You wouldn't teach. You just like, there's series 1. There's only me here. So basically, the most useful is Varaha, Brahmavid. Variaha, this is, of course, I'll be, kind and I'll say, yes, perhaps you can find this, but Varishtaha, and you look at the Varishtaha, who is in a Himalaya, who is in a state of meditation, and you go, that is a wise person. You see where the error was made? You don't have this knowledge. You can say that equally to an ordinary householder, that is a wise person. But because we always look for extravagant things, we want someone who is here or here. Someone who doesn't really care about their body, someone who eats very little bit. They sit down and they're very skinny. Okay, and you're like, wow, they are beyond the body, they are beyond the mind, they are beyond this world, they have no need to socialize, they're completely content on their own, they're in a meditative state, they are someone that this is a wise person. Now, who would you want to learn from? Because you're not going to learn from this. A householder, most 99.999%, one really relates to someone that is not really detailed about life's realities, nuanced about life's realities. And the fact is, life is not about just not caring about the body. If you looked at that kind of an inspirational figure and you want to take care of your body, how would you connect to that? Therefore, we have the two top. So what does this show you? The reality is much subtler than we thought when it comes to what moksha means. All of them have moksha. None of them get reborn. But different lifestyles. In the Bhagavad Gita, you have Krishna, active, playful, dynamic, outgoing, amidst the struggles, amidst the Kurukshetra, always consulting, people coming up to him, on driving the chariot. He is in life fully. He is a wise person. And then you have Vyasa. Vyasa is a little bit more one of these two, more introverted, only shows up rarely. People come and see him. He's okay by himself. He doesn't have a relationship. And then you have Vidur. Again, very involved in politics, and it shows you what is the reality of wisdom. So therefore, from now on, let's take not the silly notion of trying to look for someone and go, this one's a wise person. That's the point of this teaching.
There are also these wise people actually who cannot take care about themselves completely.
Yeah.
But they are wise people. They
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the reality. Yeah. This stage can even change. You can even go from here back up because you realize through your Viveka, that's what got you to moksha in the first place, that this is not a good lifestyle to live. It's not healthy. I need to become a Loka Sangraha contributor, one who contributes in the world.
Ramana Maharshi come back after that state to take care of his mother because she got sick and brought him out.
Yes.
What he said we didn't hear.
Ramana Maharshi sat in the cave, didn't eat, and the worms were eating his body, but then he heard that his mother was really seriously sick, so that brought him out of the cave and he took care of her.
Yeah. So that's amazing, isn't it? That's a very good point, how you can actually change. So if there's one thing for certain in mithya, it's change. This is all mithya, at the level of mithya. And a state of mind never remains, does it? So you cannot expect a state of mind to remain. A state of mind does not make you a wise person. A wise person is the one who understands I am free of states of mind. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.